I wasn't supposed to be home. That Thursday was booked solid with back-to-back meetings in Chicago, dinner with the client, and then a late flight back the next morning. Laura and I had said our usual goodbyes the night before, her standing at the door in her robe, me juggling a suitcase and travel mug, offering the kind of kiss you give someone when you assume everything is fine. It wasn't. The flight got canceled, then rescheduled, then pushed again. After hours of airport purgatory and checking my email compulsively, I got the call. The meeting had been postponed entirely. Rather than sitting in a Marriott watching cable news and eating vending machine trail mix, I booked the first flight home. I didn't text. I didn't call. I thought it would be a nice surprise. I used to believe in surprises. By the time my Uber pulled up to the driveway, it was just past 5:30 p.m. Still early enough that she'd probably be home from work, but late enough that maybe she'd already changed into something comfortable, maybe lit a candle or turned on that playlist she loved. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was off. The house wasn't empty, but it felt wrong. Like walking into a memory that had been altered just slightly. The lights were dimmer than usual. There was a faint scent in the air. Something citrusy but unfamiliar. Her purse lay on the floor by the entry bench, which she never did. Laura was meticulous about that sort of thing. The leather straps hung awkwardly, like someone had dropped it in a rush. "Laura?" I called out. No answer. At first, I thought maybe she was in the kitchen, earbuds in, cleaning or cooking with the music turned up. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful, not cozy, just wrong. That's when I noticed the door upstairs. Our bedroom door was half shut, and from behind it, I heard something that made my blood stop moving. Laughter. A man's laughter. It wasn't loud. Just a chuckle. Casual. Int asterisk mate. Like they'd been talking for a while. Then her voice followed, light, soft. A tone she hadn't used around me in months. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My heart thudded in my ears, but the rest of my body felt frozen. I remember thinking, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's her brother. Maybe it's someone from work. Maybe I'm overreacting. But then I saw the jacket. It was draped over the back of the dining room chair, the kind of careless placement that doesn't belong to a visitor. It was dark gray wool, expensive looking. Not mine. Definitely not hers. And certainly not something someone just dropping by would leave behind. My stomach turned. I stepped quietly to the side and took out my phone. I've asked myself 100 times since then, why did I do that? Why did I press record instead of bursting in, or yelling or calling someone? I think deep down I already knew what I was about to walk into, and some part of me wanted proof. Not just for others. For myself. Something to hold onto when the reality became too much to explain in words. I started filming. The audio picked up faint laughter again. A murmur. Then the creak of the mattress. I took one step toward the stairs. Then another. My chest felt hollow, like I was running on fumes. I wasn't thinking anymore, just reacting. I made it halfway up when the bedroom door creaked open. He stepped out first. Average height. Maybe early 30s, scruffy beard, barefoot, holding a water bottle like he owned the place. His face dropped when he saw me. The color drained from it. His mouth opened slightly, but he didn't say anything. I kept the camera pointed straight at him. Still recording. Still silent. Then she appeared behind him. Laura. Wearing one of my t-shirts. Not the cute kind she used to borrow to be flirty. This was one I hadn't seen in a while. The one with the faded logo from my college days. The one I thought I'd lost. She looked normal. That was the strangest part. Her face didn't betray panic or guilt or even surprise. She looked at me like I had just walked in a few minutes too early while she was still tidying up. Calm. Composed. Too composed. "Alex," she said. Not startled. Not ashamed. Just stating the obvious. "You're home early." I didn't say anything. I just stared. Not at her, at the locked bedroom door behind her. At the jacket. At the guy who was now inching toward the stairs, hoping I wouldn't stop him. She followed my gaze. "He wasn't feeling well," she said, gesturing toward him like this was some kind of misunderstanding. "He's a colleague. We had a late project meeting. He felt dizzy. I told him to lie down for a bit. It was all so matter of fact. As if this sort of thing happened every day. As if I was the one making it awkward. My grip on the phone tightened. I zoomed in slightly, capturing her face, his shoes, the water bottle still clutched in his hand. He didn't know where to look. Laura, though, looked directly into the lens. Not defiantly, just blank. I don't know how long we stood there. It felt like an hour. Eventually, the guy mumbled something like, "Sorry, man," as he brushed past me. I didn't move. I didn't respond. I just let him go. Laura didn't chase after him. She didn't even turn around. She just stood there like a statue, eyes fixed on mine. "Alex," she said again, as if repeating my name would somehow bring me back into the script she had written. But I wasn't part of her story anymore. I lowered the phone, ended the recording, and slid it back into my pocket. I think she expected me to say something. To yell. To cry. To ask her why. But I didn't. Because there was nothing she could say that would matter now. A jacket. A locked door. A man walking out of my bedroom like he'd just hit the snooze button. Her voice wrapped in a lie she hadn't even bothered to rehearse well. That was my explanation. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I lay on the stiff hotel mattress, stared at the ceiling, counted every crack in the plaster and every second ticking off the digital clock on the nightstand. But my mind wouldn't slow down. I kept seeing the jacket on the chair. Her expressionless face. The man's awkward, silent exit. Like my life had been reduced to a sequence of poorly written scenes and I was the only one who hadn't read the script in advance. Around 3 a.m. I finally gave up. I sat up, turned off the light, and opened my phone, not to look at the video but just to scroll, to distract myself, to prove to myself that the rest of the world still existed. But even the noise of the internet couldn't quiet the storm inside my head. Instead, my thoughts wandered backward. At first, just little things. Laura stopped kissing me goodbye in the morning. I'd lean in and she'd give me her cheek or pretend to be adjusting her bag. She used to kiss me without thinking, sometimes even twice if she thought I needed cheering up before work. Then it stopped. Quietly. She started going to bed earlier. Or later. Never at the same time as me. She said she had to finish a report or wasn't tired yet or had an early meeting. Some nights, I'd wake up around 2 or 3 and find the bed still empty beside me. I thought it was work stress. I thought it was just a phase. She changed her lock screen. That one stuck with me. It used to be a photo of us from a trip to San Diego, her head on my shoulder, the pier in the background. Then one day it was a generic mountain landscape. I noticed it in passing while her phone sat face up on the kitchen counter. When I asked about it, she shrugged and said she wanted something less distracting. But that wasn't the truth. I realized that now. Then there was the company party. About 4 months ago. I remember this one so vividly it makes my stomach turn. We walked in together, me holding her coat, her chatting away on her phone, barely acknowledging I was there. Inside, she introduced me to exactly no one. She floated from group to group like I didn't exist. I trailed behind her like some awkward +1, trying to smile, trying to fit in. At one point, I saw her place a hand on a man's arm, just for a second, just long enough to make it seem effortless. I remember thinking at the time, she's just being friendly. Now I wonder if it was the same man from our bedroom. I think back on the nights she came home smelling like different cologne, not mine, not hers. I asked once and she laughed. Said a coworker had hugged her goodbye and it must have transferred. I laughed too. Because when you're in love, you don't want to believe the worst. You train yourself to overlook the signs. You choose faith over instinct. But instincts don't lie. Not really. You just ignore them until it's too late. She stopped asking about my day. That might seem small, but it wasn't. Laura used to care about the little stuff. She'd ask if the coffee at work was still terrible or if my coworker Greg was still bringing in that awful tuna casserole. We used to trade stories like we were in a sitcom together, laughing over shared annoyances. But over time, that all faded. My stories didn't interest her anymore. Or maybe she was too full of someone else's. Her phone habits changed too. Her screen always faced down. It used to be casual, left on the table, forgotten on the couch. But then it became a lifeline she guarded. She carried it into the bathroom, the shower, even out to grab the mail. One time I reached for it, thinking it was mine, and the look she gave me, it wasn't fear. It was fury. Like I had broken some unspoken law. She smiled while texting. That's what finally broke me tonight. Not because of what it meant, but because of what it confirmed. I remembered sitting across from her one evening while she scrolled through her phone. She smiled small, almost involuntary. The kind of smile you don't fake. I asked what was funny and she said it was a meme. She didn't show me. Just tucked the phone away and changed the subject. Now I wonder who made her smile like that. It wasn't me. All these moments I had brushed off, justified, or forgotten, they began lining up like dominoes. One after another, falling into place, making a pattern I couldn't unsee. A story I had never wanted to believe, but could no longer deny. This didn't happen in one night. It happened gradually, like erosion, like something wearing away piece by piece until there was nothing left but the wreckage. I kept thinking about the video. It was still there, saved in my phone. I hadn't watched it since recording it. I didn't need to. The image was seared into my brain. The way he stepped out first. The look in his eyes. The way Laura stood behind him, utterly composed. Like she had prepared for that moment and had decided long ago how she would spin it. It wasn't even what she said that stayed with me. It was how she said it. That calm voice. That flat, calculated tone. He wasn't feeling well. Like she was offering water to a stranger at a dinner party. She looked me in the eyes and lied without flinching. No panic, no apologies. Just a prepared line and the confidence to deliver it. That scared me more than anything, because it meant this wasn't new. It wasn't a mistake or a one-time lapse in judgment. It was something she had rehearsed. She had considered the possibility of being caught. And she was ready. I thought I knew her. I thought I could read every expression, every change in her tone, every shift in her body language. But I missed all of it. Or maybe I chose not to see it. And now here I was, alone in a hotel room, watching strangers come and go in the parking lot below my window, trying to reconcile the fact that the person I shared a home with, the woman I had once imagined having kids with, was capable of looking me in the face and offering me a script while hiding a different story behind closed doors. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. What I felt was something closer to grief. Like I had lost someone who was still technically alive but no longer reachable. A ghost in a familiar body. She was still Laura, but not my Laura. And maybe she hadn't been for a long time. I picked up my phone again, finally scrolling back to the video. My thumb hovered over the play button, but I didn't press it. Couldn't. I already knew what it would show. Instead, I opened a blank note and started typing. Just bullet points. Signs I had ignored. Dates. Changes in routine. Times when her behavior didn't add up. I don't know what I was hoping to gain from it. Maybe some kind of clarity. Maybe I just wanted to remember, in case she tried to rewrite history later. Because I knew that day would come. I could already imagine the explanations, the justifications, the apologies that would drip out carefully, strategically, aimed not at healing but at damage control. She would cry. She would say she didn't mean for it to happen. She would say she was confused, lonely, stressed. She'd say I had been distant, that I worked too much, that she missed feeling wanted. And maybe some of that would be true. Maybe I had been distracted. Maybe I had taken things for granted. Maybe I had assumed too much. But none of that would excuse what she did. None of it would erase the video, the jacket, the locked door, or the look she gave me when she saw me standing there. That look, neutral, detached, almost annoyed, like I was the problem, like I was intruding. Somewhere around dawn, I finally lay back down, eyes dry but burning. I didn't cry, not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. The sadness hadn't fully arrived yet. It was still circling the runway, waiting for the right time to land. All I knew in that moment was this. Something was broken. Maybe it had been for a while. But now the cracks were too wide to ignore. And the puzzle I'd been trying to put together for months had finally taken shape. And I hated the picture it made. I went back to the house the next morning. Not to talk. Not to listen. I needed documents, bank info, insurance papers, the file for our taxes I'd left on the desktop. That was the story I told myself, anyway. But truthfully, I think I just wanted to see if anything felt different. If the house still felt like home, or if the place I once trusted had finally become just four walls and a roof. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was gone. Good. I didn't want another conversation. Another blank stare. Another attempt to fold lies into politeness. I didn't want to hear her say my name in that weightless voice again. The front door opened with the same creak it always did. The smell was familiar, her shampoo. The coffee she always brewed too strong. A hint of the same lemon-scented cleaner we'd used for years. It all felt like muscle memory. I moved through the living room, past the couch we used to fall asleep on during movie nights, past the framed photos I hadn't yet had the heart to take down. Each one now felt like a photo of strangers. I headed straight for the office. I told myself this was just a pit stop. Grab what I needed, get out. But my eyes kept drifting toward the shelves, the trinkets, the little things she'd rearranged over the past few months. Everything had been subtly altered, the bookshelf organized differently, my files pushed to the side, new pens I didn't recognize in the cup on the desk. And then there was the laptop. Ours. Shared. Or at least, it used to be. I tapped the spacebar. The screen lit up. Her profile was still signed in. At first, I moved toward the folder where I kept the paperwork, but something gave me pause. The browser reopened on its own. Some web-based messaging app. I didn't even recognize the name, one of those encrypted platforms people use when they want to keep things hidden. For a moment, I stared at it, unsure if I should click. But the page was already active. And there, like something from a bad dream, was a full conversation window already open. It wasn't vague. It wasn't ambiguous. It was all there. Dozens of messages between Laura and a contact saved as M. The timeline stretched back months. I scrolled. And scrolled. And scrolled. This wasn't new. It had roots. Photos. Inside jokes. Nicknames. The kind of language people use when they think no one will ever read it. References to rendezvous. Nights where she'd told me she was staying late at work or grabbing drinks with the team. Even mentions of me tucked between lines like afterthoughts. He still hasn't figured it out. I think he senses something, but he's trying to pretend everything's fine. Our home life is so dull, it's like I'm living next to a ghost. I don't even feel guilty anymore. I feel alive. That word again. Alive. Like she was some long-lost explorer and I was the prison cell holding her back. I didn't make a sound. Didn't curse. Didn't cry. I just sat there, hands still on the edge of the desk, staring at the screen like it might change if I blinked hard enough. I opened the photos they'd exchanged. Some were innocent, selfies in the car, a smile here and there. Others were not. She sent him one from our bathroom. Our bedroom. I recognized the blanket in the background, the lamp I had picked out. He knew about me. That was clear from the messages. Knew she was married. Knew where she lived. Knew enough to laugh about it. Tell him you're mentoring someone. That always works. Can't believe you still sleep in the same bed as him. You should have left him months ago. But she hadn't. She stayed. Ate dinner with me. Watched TV with me. Kissed me goodbye while texting him under the table. I didn't want to see more, but I couldn't stop. The words dug into my chest like glass. Each sentence was another cut. He's so predictable. You could set a clock to his routine. I could be out all night and he'd still ask if I want coffee in the morning. He doesn't see me anymore. Not really. I sat back in the chair, staring at nothing. That last one kept echoing in my head. He doesn't see me anymore. Funny how that works. Because I saw her more clearly than ever now. I saw the parts she'd hidden. The parts she'd twisted into something unrecognizable. And I saw myself too. All the moments I had reached out, tried to connect, tried to pull her back in, unaware that she had already walked away. I thought about printing it. I really did. The entire chat thread, the photos, the dates. But something in me resisted. I didn't need it. I didn't need to *p***nize it. The damage had already been done. The truth had already found me. And once it did, I couldn't unknow it. I closed the browser. Sat there for a moment in silence. The laptop hummed, the hard drive spinning softly. The sound used to be comforting. Now it felt like static. I opened the folder I'd come for, our joint finances, the tax documents, my list of passwords. I moved quickly, precisely. Like someone clocking out of a job they didn't want anymore. When I finished, I slid the files into my bag and left the office. The house still smelled like her. Like lemon and perfume and the ghosts of meals we used to share. The bed was made. Her sweater was draped over the back of a chair. Nothing was broken. Nothing was out of place. But everything had changed. I didn't take anything else. No framed photos. No keepsakes. Not even the mug she bought me last Christmas, the one that said best husband ever. It sat on the counter, mocking me in silence. I walked out. Closed the door gently. Locked it behind me. And for the first time, I didn't look back. There was no explosion. No confrontation. No yelling or suitcase throwing or dramatic ultimatums in the middle of the night. That's not how it went down, not because I wasn't angry, but because something in me had already started shutting down. It was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, but the kind that builds when something inside you dies slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing until it's already gone. I didn't tell Laura what I had seen. Not that day. Not the next. I didn't bring up the messages or the photos or the things she said about me in that thread like I wasn't a real person. I didn't want to see her pivot into excuses. I didn't want to be lied to again. I'd had enough of seeing her eyes calculate before her mouth spoke. So instead, I began to disappear. Not physically at first. Just subtly. I stopped texting her during the day. No more, "How's your morning?" or "Want me to grab dinner?" messages. I stopped waiting up when she came home late, and I stopped asking where she'd been. If she wanted to vanish into her secret life, I'd let her. I wouldn't chase her anymore. I wouldn't compete with a man who had already won by default because I didn't even know there was a game being played. She noticed. It took about a week before the questions started. "Everything okay?" she asked one evening while I stood at the stove cooking pasta for one. Her voice was tentative. Measured. "Yeah," I replied. "Just tired." That became my line. Just tired. It covered everything. It explained the silence, the empty gaze, the way I stopped reaching for her hand when we passed each other in the hallway. I started sleeping in the guest room. She never asked why. At work, I became sharper. Focused. I stopped checking my phone during breaks. I declined invites to happy hour and instead sat in the corner of the break room with a laptop researching apartments on the other side of town. Nothing fancy. Just a place with clean floors, quiet neighbors, and enough space for a new start. By week 3, I had signed a lease. A small one-bedroom. Top floor. Not too far from the office, but far enough that I wouldn't run into her at the grocery store by accident. I didn't tell anyone at first. It felt too raw, too close to a confession. I needed to move through it alone. Even my parents didn't know. My friends noticed something was different, commented on how I was more serious lately or how I didn't laugh as easily. I just nodded, offered that same tired smile, and moved the conversation somewhere else. Laura continued playing her role at least when I was around. She still made dinner some nights, hummed old songs in the kitchen, asked if I'd seen the new show she liked. But everything about it felt rehearsed. Like she was trying to cast me in a play I no longer wanted to be in. Once, she even sat next to me on the couch and rested her head against my shoulder like she used to. I didn't move, but I didn't lean in either. I just sat there, arms folded, staring at the muted TV screen as she closed her eyes and pretended we were fine. We weren't. But I let her have the illusion. For a little while. The last day in the house came faster than I expected. It was a Saturday morning. She had gone to the gym, or at least that's what she said. I didn't ask. I packed the last of my things into 2 duffel bags and a cardboard box labeled miscellaneous. That's all I took. Clothes, a few books, my laptop. No keepsakes. No mementos of the life we built together. I looked around the living room one last time. The sofa we picked out together. The bookshelf with the framed photos still sitting on top. The kitchen where she used to dance barefoot on Saturday mornings while I made pancakes. All of it felt like a museum exhibit now, frozen artifacts from a life that no longer existed. There was no note. No farewell speech. Just the key I left on the counter. When she came home later that day, I imagined she called my name. I imagined she checked the garage, saw my car gone, and then wandered through the house with a growing sense of confusion, then dread. Maybe she looked at the missing clothes, the half-empty closet, the untouched bed in the guest room. Maybe she figured it out right away. Or maybe she sat on the edge of the bed waiting for me to return. But I didn't return. And I didn't explain. Because some things don't need to be explained when they've been screamed in silence for weeks. A few days later, she texted me. "Hey, can we talk?" I didn't respond. Another text came the next morning. "I don't know what's going on, but I feel like something's wrong. Please, just talk to me." Still nothing. Then she called. I let it ring. Eventually, she stopped trying. The silence wasn't revenge. I wasn't ghosting her to punish her. I wasn't interested in winning or getting the upper hand. This wasn't a game. It was survival. I needed distance. I needed to be somewhere her voice couldn't reach me, where her lies didn't echo off the walls like a bad memory. And in that new space, small, simple, unadorned, I started to breathe differently. I still woke up some mornings expecting to hear her in the kitchen. I still reached for her side of the bed out of habit, only to find cold sheets. Some nights I replayed old conversations, wondering if I missed the moment it all shifted, the second the lines crossed and I became invisible to her. But those moments became fewer. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped picturing her with him wherever he was. I stopped wondering if she regretted anything or if she was still telling herself stories that made her feel better about what she did. Because none of that mattered now. This was the quiet part, not the kind that follows a fight, but the kind that comes when you finally walk away without needing a goodbye. When you stop needing answers to questions that should never have existed in the first place. And the silence? It was finally mine. It didn't take long for Laura to notice I wasn't pretending anymore. At first, I think she assumed I was just pulling away temporarily. That I was wounded but salvageable. That maybe a heartfelt conversation or a tearful apology would rewind time and drop us back into the safety of our old routines. But I wasn't the same man she'd left standing in the hallway that day. The version of me who still wanted to understand, to fix, to beg for some version of an explanation, that man had already walked out the door. And what came next wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some cinematic breakdown or fiery confrontation. No. It was slow. It was subtle. It was sad in that quiet, irreversible way a fading photograph is sad. The colors just bled away. She called a few times, mostly in the evenings when she knew I might be home. Sometimes she left voicemails, always starting with, "Hey, can we talk?" and ending with some variation of "I miss you." I listened to the first two. Then I stopped. Texts followed. Then emails. She tried humor first, sending memes I might laugh at, jokes only we would understand. Then nostalgia photos from trips, **TS of old conversations, the kind of stuff meant to trigger that aching reflex where you miss the person even if you don't want to. I felt something, sure. But it wasn't what she hoped. It wasn't warmth or longing. It was distance. Like looking through a window into a life I didn't belong to anymore. Then came the efforts at redemption. She cooked more. I know that because she sent pictures. Roast chicken, pasta carbonara, pancakes with blueberries shaped into smiley faces. I didn't respond. She started playing our music, songs we used to put on in the background on slow weekends. Once I walked past the house on the way to my car and heard Norah Jones drifting from the open windows. It didn't pull me in. She even changed the throw pillows. That one stuck with me for some reason. They used to be burnt orange, my choice. I remember how we argued in the store for 20 minutes before she finally relented, saying, "Fine, but you owe me unlimited back rubs." Now they were pale gray. Neutral. Minimal. Clean slate, I guessed. It was as if she was redesigning the space to summon some version of me that might walk back through the door. But she didn't understand. The man she was redecorating for didn't live there anymore. He hadn't for a while. The thing about trust is it dies quietly. It doesn't go out with a bang. It fades like old wallpaper, one curl at a time, until you realize the wall underneath was rotting all along. I'd see her sometimes briefly from a distance. She looked tired. She wore more makeup than usual. Carried herself differently, like someone trying to hold together a version of themselves that kept threatening to unravel. Her walk was a little slower. Her smile, when it appeared, looked forced. Once, I caught her outside the house with a box of things. She saw me across the street. I stopped. She hesitated like she might come over, but I turned away before she could make up her mind. Later, I found the box sitting outside my apartment door. Inside, old Polaroids, concert tickets, a couple of books I'd left behind, and a short note that simply read, "In case you want to remember the good stuff." I left it on the kitchen counter. Unopened. Another time, she sent a message that just said, "Do you ever think about how we used to laugh at night for no reason?" I didn't answer. I did think about it, though. I thought about the nights we'd lay in bed, whispering dumb inside jokes until one of us snorted or laughed so hard we shook the mattress. I thought about that lazy Sunday in October when we got stuck in the rain on our walk and danced like idiots in the street. I thought about her head on my chest, the way she'd trace circles absent-mindedly on my arm while she drifted off. I remembered all of it. But memories are tricky. They exist in a vacuum, untouched by the things that come later. The laughter was real. The love was real. But so was the betrayal. And those two things can't live in the same house. She didn't understand that part. Not really. She thought if she stacked enough good moments in front of me, I might forget the weight of what followed. But memory doesn't work like math. You can't subtract infidelity from affection and expect a clean answer. Eventually, the tone of her messages changed. No more nostalgia. No more pretending everything could go back to normal. It became guilt, regret, fear. I know I messed up. I don't even know how to begin fixing it. I wish I could take it all back. I was stupid. I was selfish. I miss you so much it physically hurts. Please, just tell me if there's still a chance. I wanted to want to reply. That's the hard part. I wanted to be able to say, "Let's talk," or "We'll figure it out," or even just, "I hear you." But I didn't. Because that would have been a lie. And after everything, I couldn't lie to her even if she had lied to me. The difference was I still knew how to mean what I said. She didn't. One day, I ran into one of her friends at a cafe downtown. Kelly, I think. We exchanged awkward hellos. She asked how I was doing, then paused and said, "Laura talks about you a lot. She's not doing great. You know that, right?" I nodded. "She's trying," she added. "She really regrets everything." I believed her. That wasn't the problem. Regret isn't the antidote to betrayal. It's just the shadow it leaves behind. Laura could regret what she did every day for the rest of her life, and it still wouldn't unbreak what broke between us. What she missed, what so many people miss, is that people don't leave because they stop loving someone. They leave because they realize love alone isn't enough when there's no trust. No truth. No respect. I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. Bitterness is active. It requires energy. What I felt now was emptier than that. Quieter. Like an old scar that doesn't ache but still tightens on cold mornings. She tried, I'll give her that. She made herself small, apologetic, humble in all the ways she never used to be. But it was too late. You can't renovate a house after it's already burned down. You can't rebuild from ashes and expect it to smell like lavender and lemon and whatever else she used to spray in the kitchen. One night, I stood outside the apartment on my balcony, sipping a beer, looking out over the streetlights below. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. Just one word. Please. I stared at it for a while. Then I turned the phone over, set it on the table, and looked out into the night. I didn't need more words. I'd already heard everything I needed to the moment she stopped saying anything at all, months ago when she first chose to look past me instead of at me. She hadn't lost me when I walked out of the house. She lost me the day she stopped seeing me. Her agency hosted an event a few weeks later, some open networking gala she had mentioned in passing, not knowing I was invited through a mutual contact. I didn't go to make a scene. I went to witness what we had become. She stood at the front, introducing speakers, confident and polished, exactly how she wanted the world to see her. When she spotted me, her face froze for a second, then recovered. "And that's Alex," she said with a hollow smile. Just my name. No warmth. No story. I stood still, hands folded, and watched her talk about creativity and team synergy like our marriage hadn't shattered on her watch. And then, calmly, I turned and walked out. Through the double doors. No anger. No goodbye. That silence, that final, deliberate step away, broke something in her. You could see it in her eyes. That was the moment she finally realized I was never coming back. She tried after that. Messages. Voicemails. A box of our old photos left at my door like a time capsule she hoped could reverse the clock. But I didn't feel hollow anymore. I felt still. At peace. I didn't hate her. I didn't love her. I just let go. What we had wasn't erased. It was a chapter. And chapters end. The story didn't stop, it simply moved on without her. She didn't lose me the day I left. She lost me the day she looked through me and chose someone else. By the time she realized what she threw away, I had already found something she never expected, peace in a life where she no longer had a place. And that wasn't revenge. That was freedom.